I always thought life in Seattle would feel like a constant rush of coffee shops, rainy afternoons, and cozy evenings inside. It was the city I had dreamed of since college, and when I finally got a job offer at a publishing house downtown, I packed up my things and moved into a small apartment overlooking Lake Union. The city was everything I hoped it would be, except that it often felt lonely. The hustle and bustle of work left little room for meaningful connections, and though I had colleagues to chat with during office hours, evenings often felt quiet. That was until Ethan Parker became part of my daily life again. Ethan had been my friend since college. We met in Portland at a mutual friend's party, both awkward and out of place, and ended up sitting in the corner talking about books and movies for most of the night. Our friendship grew over the years, though we drifted after graduation. He went to San Francisco for a tech job, and I stayed in Oregon, eventually making my way to Seattle. We texted now and then, exchanged birthday wishes, but I never thought he would suddenly reappear, until one chilly spring morning when I spotted him sitting in a cafe across the street from my office. At first, I thought it couldn't be him. But then he lifted his head, and I saw the same warm smile and hazel eyes I remembered. We waved at each other through the window, and a few minutes later, we were laughing over lattes as if no time had passed. Ethan explained he had transferred to Seattle for work and had just moved into an apartment not far from mine. Suddenly, the city didn't feel so lonely anymore. Over the next weeks, Ethan and I began meeting often. Coffee before work, weekend walks through Pike Place Market, and spontaneous dinners when neither of us felt like cooking. It was easy, natural, like slipping back into an old rhythm. Everyone at work noticed the change in me. I smiled more. I laughed louder. And though I brushed off their comments, deep down, I knew Ethan's presence was making my days brighter. One Saturday afternoon, we decided to drive out to Snoqualmie Falls. The air smelled of pine, and the roar of the waterfall echoed around us. We walked along the trail, teasing each other about our hiking skills. At one point, I slipped slightly on the damp path, and Ethan caught me by the elbow. For a split second we stood close, too close, and I felt my heart race in a way I hadn't expected. I quickly laughed it off, but the warmth of his hand lingered. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the thought. Ethan had always been just my friend. Safe, dependable, someone I could text about a funny meme or call when I needed advice. But was something changing between us? Or was it just me imagining things? The weeks rolled on, and our friendship only deepened. We cooked dinner together, experimented with recipes we found online, and sometimes sat on my balcony watching the city lights shimmer on the water. He told me about his work challenges, his dreams of starting his own company, and his love for photography. I shared stories from my publishing world, my fears about the future, and my guilty obsession with cheesy romance novels. Every conversation felt effortless. Then came the evening everything shifted. It was a rainy Friday, and my apartment was filled with the comforting scent of garlic bread and pasta. Ethan had brought over a bottle of sparkling cider, and we sat on the floor of my living room, eating, talking, and laughing. The sound of rain tapped steadily against the windows. At some point, the laughter faded into a quiet moment, and I realized Ethan was watching me. Not in the casual way friends look at each other, but with an intensity that made me forget how to breathe. "Lily," he said softly, my name sounding different on his lips. "Do you ever wonder if maybe there's something more here?" My heart thudded. I wanted to answer, but words stuck in my throat. Instead, I searched his face, looking for signs of hesitation, but all I found was sincerity. Before I could speak, Ethan leaned closer, and then almost hesitantly he kissed me. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't rushed. It was gentle, warm, and filled with a question more than an answer. Yet in that moment, everything became clear. When he pulled back, he looked nervous. "I'm sorry. I don't want to ruin what we have. You mean too much to me." But I shook my head, my cheeks flushed, and whispered, "You didn't ruin anything." From that night on, our friendship transformed into something deeper. We still laughed, still teased, still shared our favorite coffee shops and long walks. But now, there were lingering touches, late-night talks where his hand found mine, and quiet moments that carried more weight than 1,000 words. Of course, it wasn't always easy. Both of us worried about what would happen if things didn't work out. We valued our friendship too much to risk losing it. But day after day, the connection grew stronger, built on trust, laughter, and years of knowing each other. Months later, standing at Cary Park with the Seattle skyline behind us, Ethan squeezed my hand and said, "You know, I thought I was just coming here for a job. But maybe I was meant to come here for you." I smiled, leaning against him as the city lights twinkled. And I realized he was right. Sometimes, the people you think are just friends end up becoming the very person you were waiting for all along.